Electrified. Like you say, now that the UFC's gone to these alternating kind of afternoon versus evening cards, I have demands of the evening cards, and this one met all the demands. Not only was obviously the main event was sensational, we're going to talk about that soon, but pretty much excellent fights up and down the card, some spectacular finishes, and it didn't trail off. Like things kept kind of building. Like I was not disappointed in the main event, even after all the crazy stuff that went before. Oh, no sound from either of us. Okay, well, if you guys can't hear Keith, obviously we just had a high stakes bantamweight headliner, uh, Jose Aldo versus Rob Font. I cannot remember off the top of my head whether Keith picked Font or Aldo. I picked Font, and I also picked Font to beat Pedro Munoz. So clearly, I have not yet learned my lesson. The interesting thing that came out of this to me is how incredibly intelligent Jose Aldo is. How often is it in this sport, from the highest to the lowest level, that you see a fighter get advice from their corner that is the correct advice, and they immediately go out and actually do it? Because it was after round two, either round one or round two, that Andre Pedernera said to Jose Aldo, "You need to start throwing more leg kicks." He went out, immediately started throwing more leg kicks, and it turned the tide of the fight, because the first round and a half or so had really, it was setting up to be a battle of volume versus power. Font was outlanding Aldo, but when Aldo landed, it hurt more. As soon as Aldo threw some leg kicks, the advantage uh, in volume disappeared for Font. Like his punching numbers just went straight through the floor. Uh, I mean, that turned it into a fight where Aldo had the advantage on the feet, and then obviously on the floor, it was all Aldo every time they went there. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. I don't know if they can hear you. Okay. Guys, stick with me for just a moment here while I try to fix something. Okay. Guys, stick with me for just a moment here while I try to fix something. Okay. Guys, stick with me for just a moment here while I try to fix something. Okay.
I I think I just heard myself. Yeah, I'll just start talking. If you guys can hear me, let me know. And if they can, then um, I think I just heard myself. I can hear myself now, so I'm gonna play like that, and then yeah, I'll just start talking. If you guys can hear me, let me know. And if they can, then um, I think I just heard myself. I can hear myself now, so I'm gonna play like that, and then I don't think I can hear you now, Ben. I'll just start talking. If you guys can hear me, let me know. And if they can, then um, yeah, I can hear you. Can all right. I can hear myself now, so I'm gonna play like that, and then all right, guys. So sorry about that. There was probably someone just said there's a lag and echo. That was probably because I was listening to the YouTube audio, which would make a lot of sense why there would be an echo. You'd probably be hearing 10 to 12 seconds. Guys, we're just being 100 honest. I'm on call. I usually am not on call often, but sometimes I am, and today I am. So we try to switch it to have Ben take over in case I get called and I have to jet out of here. So we've had a lot of technical difficulties. We used Ecamm Live. We've been talking to Mike Fridley. We're trying to get a better setup, hopefully for the new year. So I'll be honest, Ben. Because of all the audio stuff you were talking, I was trying to figure stuff out on my end. So I really didn't listen to what you were saying.
Okay. Aldo following Didi's instructions and starting to throw the leg kicks just made a huge difference. It got rid of Font's advantage in volume. I expected Aldo to have the advantage if it went to the ground, but it decided the fight, really. It was a fairly even thing on the feet, but every time it went to the ground, it was complete dominance for Jose Aldo.
Yeah, and guys, just let us know. I think we got the audio fixed. If we don't, please let us know, and we'll try to figure something out. 2022 is going to be much better for us. We're still trying to work out some kinks. If you guys know, this is still somewhat of a new show for us. Doing it live always makes it a little more difficult. But yeah, let's get into this. Jose Aldo, he's absolutely freaking amazing. To be at his age, I think he's what would they say? He's 35 years old, but he's not 35. Like he might be on Earth for 35 years, but in fight years, he's probably about 50. Oh. And to be able to still be in contention and be one win away, maybe one more win, and he's fighting for a title again. Am I right?
If Peter Yan is not the champ, Jose Aldo is fighting for a title in his next fight. It might take one more to get a rematch with Yan.
Yeah, I agree. And he's, with TJ Dillashaw being hurt and there's different things going on with him, but we, like to do the phone call game, and we do who's the next guy to get called. If something happens where like Petr Yan can't fight, Jose Aldo is probably the one getting the phone call.
Oh yeah. Oh, if Yan falls out and they need someone to fight Sterling, it's absolutely Jose Aldo.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let me ask you a question. Let's back up before we get more into the X's and O's. I know you kind of get into it. Let me ask you this question. Jose Aldo is now fighting at 135. He spent most of his career at 145. He became a legend at 145. Imagine if Jose Aldo spent his entire career at 135. Imagine if he made this move back when he was in WEC. I'm going to ask you a question. If Jose Aldo made this move when he was in his 20s, early 20s, when he was in WEC, is Dominic Cruz a legend today?
Maybe not. Or certainly not the same kind that he is. Urijah Faber's resume would look a little different as well. Yeah, he's a disruptor. Whatever division he's in during those WEC days, I think has his stamp on it. But that doesn't take away that this is one of the most unlikely career reinventions in MMA history. Because in 2008, 2009, Jose Aldo, there were two things that we knew about him. That he was a spectacular fast-twitch athlete, and that he had obvious trouble making 145 pounds. So he seems like the least likely guy on the planet to drop in weight and remain dominant in his mid-30s, where those fast-twitch reflexes are going away. and you're moving to a lighter division where people are faster. This defies all logic. It is really the stuff of legend, and I don't throw that word around easily. But yeah, I mean, we're watching the work of a living legend.
Yeah, and what's really impressive, to add on to what you said, because I agree with both points that you made, is also going down in weight, the volume usually goes up. The lower your weight class you go, the more the volume of your opponent does. And him over the years, his volume has actually decreased. So he's relies even more on power. Now, he was, even in his prime at 145, he was a lot of times wasn't the highest output guy. He was more efficient with his output, landing shots. He was take big portions of rounds off. Now he's just it's so impressive how his power just is a great equalizer. I mean, Rob Font was having so much success throughout the fight until he got tagged. It's like, I'm doing great, and then I got tagged, and it just changed every single round. And I'm sitting there going into the third round, and both the first and second round was close. And I thought we were going to have one of these debates after 5 rounds where it's, the damage versus output debate. Like, I thought that's what we were going to have. And that went right out the door, because rounds 3 through 5, there's no controversy. It's all Jose Aldo.
It's all Jose Aldo. And it's not like he was doing this to some guy that goes out and is in blood and guts wars every time. I mean, how many times have we seen Rob Font hurt badly, period?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we go back to, I think Pedro Munoz hurt him once, but that was a long time ago. And guys, we apologize. This the chat is going great as always. Let's throw some names out there. We have, I think, a lot of the usual ones. Tara is out there. Austin Janola, Ben's son, Adam Duffy, the great Adam Duffy. Scott McCready. I apologize if I say any.
Dev Goes Fishing is there.
Yeah, I apologize if we pronounce anybody's name wrong. The great Bruce Bob Trotter is in the chat. I'm scrolling fast, so if I miss somebody, I'm not doing it on purpose.
Hey, while you're scrolling, Dev Goes Fishing brings up a good point here, and I saw a few people speculating about this, that Font is fighting like somebody who got knocked out in camp. Because we are not used to seeing him just staggered from every solid blow he takes. It might just be down to Jose Aldo has that kind of power.
Yeah.
And I'm making no excuses whatsoever, because everybody has little injuries in camp. Everybody was fighting off a cold. And I don't think Font will make any excuses. But when every touch just at least puts him on roller skates, it does make you wonder.
Yeah, I think that is true. I think that is a really good point. I didn't think it while we were watching it. I was more crediting Aldo, like, holy crap, Jose Aldo is, his power was on point. But yeah, it might have been the case. He might have had some kind of injury. He might have been rocked. I mean, they almost brag about how hard they spar, Calvin Kattar and Rob Font, with each other. So yeah, something like that may have happened. I don't want to speculate too much, because you start getting camps in trouble, and you start getting commissions in trouble and whatnot. But Aldo's power was obviously rocking him. The chopping leg kicks I think it started about the third round. Was third or fourth round. That's something that we've talked about. Jose Aldo just completely abandoned the leg kicks a long time ago, and now we're starting to see. You talk about his career resurgence. We're starting to see the leg kick resurgence too for him, as he added, and obviously that was such a key against someone who wants to throw a jab. And then we also saw some grappling from Jose Aldo, which is always fun to see. So we saw so many amazing things, and I think about the very first round, about 2-3 minutes in, when Rob Font gets a takedown, and Rob Font's moving. He's mixing up his attacks, going to the body, throwing a jab, power shots, going for a takedown. He had Jose Aldo guessing and guessing and guessing. And honestly, I think what happened, there was a left hook to the body of Rob Font where he almost curled over briefly for a second. And I think that was the changing of the fight. And then suddenly, I think maybe because he went to the body, maybe Rob Font's protecting a little bit more instead of keeping his hands a little higher. And that's why the straight right was starting to land. And once Jose Aldo was able to get in his range, he took over, and Font needed to jab and move, stick and moves, jab and move, moving around. And he just didn't have that chance anymore, where Jose Aldo slowly just started marching him down with power shots. And I guess I think another big difference is
while Font was touching him with volume, he never hurt Jose Aldo.
No, the biggest danger was whether that eye swelling was going to lead either to him being compromised or to the fight actually being stopped. But he never had Aldo in actual trouble from being concussed.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so impressed. If you told me that this fight went to a decision and one fighter won 5 rounds to 0, I would have been like, oh my God, Rob Font, just put it on Jose Aldo. But that was not the case. As my picks were not good. I only went 7-6 in my picks overall, and I got in really bad on the main card.
I went 9-4. I had a good night. This is one of the ones I got wrong.
Yeah, me too. Both.
And you know what? Just the same as when I picked against him in the Munoz fight, I knew really quickly that I had made a poor life choice by picking against Jose Aldo.
Yeah. I want to do 2 more things before we move on. We got a lot of fights to cover, guys, so I don't want to spend too much time in this. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, but let's do some matchmaking for a second. So if we're matchmaking Jose Aldo, you're saying one more fight, he's fighting for the title, but you know that's kind of guessing at what we're gonna do, not necessarily we're the supreme being. We're the supreme ruler. So, guys, put out there, what would you do? Who would you match Jose Aldo with next? So, if anybody puts their comments, I'll try to read those. Me and Ben will both try to read them. But, Ben, you're the brass of the UFC. You bring Jose Aldo into the office. What's the fight you're offering him?
Well, you got to do a 2-stage thing here because presumably Yan and Sterling are going to fight sometime in the first quarter of next year and get things settled. If Sterling comes out of that the champ, I think Aldo should be next. But they probably don't want to wait 3 months to even decide what's next for him. So I think you either book him against TJ Dillashaw, or if Dominic Cruz beats Pedro Munoz, maybe against Dominic Cruz, just because that's a fight that if we could have made it and we didn't, we should punch ourselves in the face.
Yeah, actually, those are the exact 2 picks that I was going with, too. The TJ Dillashaw, we don't know what's going on because not only is, Sterling injured right now, TJ Dillashaw is injured, he's already fought Pachiot, so, and then what happens if Dominic Cruz loses? So there is, I get what you're saying, there's a lot of, what are those little charts where if yes, go here, if no, go there. We kind of have a little mousetrap thing going on. You don't know where you're ending. But in a perfect world, I don't like doing number 1 contender matchup. It's not usually my thing. A lot of people like to. I just don't like it because it knocks out a contender. I try to not have that happen. But yeah, TJ Dillashaw versus Jose Aldo is the fight I would make. And then if that doesn't happen, go at featherweight, go at bantamweight. Always sounds intriguing to me with Dominic Cruz and Jose Aldo. You think about a time where both of those guys were champions in the the UFC at the same time. All right, let's move on to Rob Font. Obviously not the showing he wants, but I don't think it was a terrible showing. I mean, he's had moments, so I don't think he falls off too much. What are you doing with Rob Font?
I mean, he could certainly take on the Cruz Munoz winner. He could take on Merab, who is still not booked for another fight.
Nobody wants that fight.
Nobody wants to fight Merab, but somebody's got to. I mean, if you really believe the UFC is going to push Sean O'Malley hard if he beats Raulian Paiva, then if O'Malley beats Paiva, do Font versus O'Malley. It should be a great fight. And whoever wins that, it either puts Font right back in the discussion, or O'Malley finally has a win that says, okay, we can now justify putting you in the title picture.
Yeah, I thought about O'Malley if he wins. Obviously, if Paiva wins, his stock would obviously soar if he beats Sean O'Malley on a pay-per-view. I thought about both those. I'm still trying to do a little bit more of a slow rise for Sean O'Malley, so I'm going to go with the guy who beat Sean O'Malley, and I'm going to go with Marlon Vera.
I like that.
I think Vera kind of deserves, and it's one of those ones we talk about with bantamweight. You can't make a bad matchup. I'm gonna throw out some matchups. Swords Song goes with Aldo versus Dillashaw. Kyle Lahi, same thing. Aldo versus Dillashaw. Austin, Aldo versus Sandhagen. Oh, sorry, that was Kyle again. I apologize. If you want to do Aldo versus Sandhagen has lost a couple fights in a row, so that's why I wouldn't give him Aldo. I'd like to see him just get another win. Austin's asking, he's basically making a statement saying Dillashaw should be ready by January, February. I don't know. Maybe he will. I really don't know. I haven't really paid attention to Dillashaw enough to kind of have an idea. While he's doing a whole bunch of matchups for Font, Mostasar, Baccarel, Mostasar 145. That's all right. Marlon Vera. All right, so Austin's kind of going with me with Marlon Vera. Is going back. So I was at Bellator Live. I was there last night. It was a great night for bantamweights. They announced the bantamweight Grand Prix. Sergio Pettis and Koji Horiguchi, two guys that really high on. Beautiful knockout. One of the best knockouts I've ever seen live. Obviously the Grand Prix. Josh Hill had a nice knockout bantamweight. Let me ask you this before we move on. Is bantamweight the best weight class in the world right now?
No, but it might be second after lightweight. Yeah,
I think it's right there. I think we got like chocolate vanilla type thing. What's your favorite flavor? Mm-hmm. I think it's in the running. Let me ask you one more question, and we'll get people. This one I want to open up to everybody. I want people to tell me, based on Jose Aldo and his second half resurgence. Yeah, I think he's like 3-3 over his last 6, so it's not the most impressive, but it's still extremely impressive for a guy at this point of his career to still be relevant. I think when he was getting beat up by Max Holloway, if you told me years later he'd still be in the running, one shot away from a title shot, I would have laughed at you. But, I mean, this is what's we getting a lot lately with aging fighters. Give me the exact spot you would rank Jose Aldo all time. And we're not going to spend too much time on this, but I'm going to give you mine. Actually, Ben, I'll tell you. Name me right now, Ben, and I'll let guys do the same thing. Ben, who do you have over Jose Aldo all time? And I'll tell you when I'm telling you to stop.
Okay, all time greater than Jose Aldo.
And in fairness, I did not tell you we're going to do this. So if you forget someone, that's fine. But
George St. Pierre.
Okay.
John Jones.
Stop.
There we go.
That's my list. I don't go any further than that. I have Jose Aldo number 3. No. Obviously, I'm telling you stop. Continue if you have more.
I was deciding whether or not to say Anderson Silva, and I'm not sure I would actually.
It's close. Yeah. The only thing I think of and this is maybe the way we think. When Anderson Silva fell off, he was much older than Jose Aldo, and he kind of hung on a little bit. But the end of his career run was really bad, and Jose Aldo, maybe we categorize his career at the end of his career a little too early. Obviously we did. So I think that's maybe why I'm leaning towards Jose Aldo, because I'm looking at the guy at the end of his career and he's still like winning. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm putting him number 3. I'm putting John Jones and George St. Pierre. That's it.
Just although he has. I mean, there are fights he has lost badly, but he has no bad losses, as in, oh man, he had no business losing to that guy. Yeah. Like, his losses, except for like the Marlon Moraes fight, where a lot of people actually scored it for Aldo, that's the only one that's not like a best guy in the world right then loss, really.
But it's at that time, Marlon, I mean, shortly after that, Marlon Moraes, that was right after Marlon Moraes fought for the title.
Yeah. Yeah,
he just fought for the title one fight before.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying his worst loss is a close loss to a top 5 guy.
Yeah, who just coming off a title challenge. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It looks like Daniel Alves is agreeing with our list, but he's throwing Anderson Silva over Jose Aldo. Kyle Lawhey is throwing Anderson Silva over Jose Aldo. Devo goes fishing. I'm assuming because the guys aren't throwing these out there, they're not throwing out GSP and John Jones. So I'm assuming they're agreeing with us. But Devo goes fishing, throws Anderson Silva and Khabib. My issue with Khabib, and I think Khabib is the most dominant fighter I've ever seen. If I'm going straight, if we think about like if it was like an NFL who had the greatest single season, that doesn't necessarily mean the greatest player of all time, kind of thing. Yeah. The problem is it was just too short. And I know we say 29 fights, how could it be too short? His reign on top was too short.
He was only even fighting the best in the world for the last 8 or 9 fights.
Yeah, that's Jose Aldo has been doing it for 8 or 9 years, or maybe longer than that. I don't know, 12 years.
12 years.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12 years now. So that's the only reason why I have it. But I got no issue if anybody puts it. I mean, based on how Khabib beats people, like obviously I would have Khabib in my top 10. So, anyways, guys, we're gonna move on because a fight that it seemed like the hardcore fans were most excited about was Brad Riddell versus Rafael Fiziev. Fiziev, excuse me. A striker's paradise. One former and one current. Oh my God, I can't think of the team name there. Tiger Muay Thai coaches, striking coaches of arguably the best striking, gym in the world, faced off. And it's exactly what we expected. Like I was on the edge of my seat the entire fight. Were you like me?
Same. And the thing is, I called it my fight of the night pick on the preview, and it's not because I thought it was going to be this wild thing, because I figured, one, they're both very technical guys, and two, they would have the caution that comes from familiarity. When two guys have put in hundreds of hours against each other, which those two had, you're aware of the other guy's strengths and you're wary of them. So I figured it would be deliberate, super high level, super cerebral, and it was right until Fiziev threw a wheel kick that just iced Brad Riddell.
Yeah, absolutely. So both guys are so good. Like that's the thing I heard. Even when Brad Riddell was losing, I kept saying like, he's so good. But Fiziev was just faster. He hit harder, and he just had more variety in strikes. Brad Riddell was a lot of boxing. Well, Fiziev was actually probably leading more with his kicks than his punches, but just a speed advantage. And you talked about the spinning kick. He talked about setting up. I wanted to rewind it because I wanted to talk about it, and I rewinded a couple of times and seeing what he did, and he really did. It's not one guy just saying like I don't believe Sergio Pettis set up his spinning wheel kick. And I'm not going to call it a fluke. I mean, he threw it. But I don't think he said, hey, I'm going to throw this high kick, and when I miss, he's going to duck down. His head's going to be coming out. I'm going to throw a spinning back kick. I think it just kind of happened in the moment. That wasn't the case because you see Fiziev was orthodox. He switched to southpaw, and then he switched back to the orthodox position. And as soon as Riddell went to circle away from him, he almost tricked him on the power. If you know what I'm saying, he's in the orthodox. So he goes to the southpaw, and he goes, no, I want a spin kick. So I'm going to make him force to circle to his left, which is, when the guy's in the orthodox, you're not going to circle the other way. You're going to circle to your left. He switches back to the orthodox, and then he realizes that he throws a spinning wheel kick, knowing that Riddell is going to drop his hands when he gets past the point of like the left hook. Like the left hook can only reach so far. But the spinning wheel kick can go a little further, and that's when he starts dropping his hands, and that's when he lands it. It was such a beautiful strike. I'm throwing it. I mean, if it had Riddell crashing back into the cage, knocked out cold, it's up there for the knockouts of the year. Unfortunately, for Fiziev, I keep saying Fiziev. I'm sorry, Fiziev, he didn't come crashing down to the canvas. And so that's probably why the effect of it is probably not going to get you a knockout of the year.
Even though it was beautiful, and I love the way you described the setup there. Because it's like a chess game. He was thinking like two full moves ahead of him.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Am I living in the moment, or just like how high are we looking at Fiziev? I mean, are we thinking top 5? Are we talking fighting for the title one day? Are we talking about winning the title one day? Like, how high is he?
In the end, he's still a 12-fight veteran.
Yeah.
Who there are a lot of questions to be answered about him before he needs a top 5 opponent. I wouldn't be surprised if he got there at some point.
He just has that feel to him.
He does. And obviously, if he fought Charles Oliveira tomorrow, I'm not saying I would pick him, but my point is, I always think like this. Like when I think about future champions and that, would I feel confidence taking the champion over him right now? I mean, I don't know if I would. See, I'm looking at the two participants in the upcoming lightweight title fight. I'm looking at Oliveira and Poirier.
Yeah.
I think either of those guys finds a way to get him to the ground and exposes them. And I'm gonna think that until I see him against a good wrestler.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like that's very fair, and I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't have confidence in that pick.
No,
like, if somehow, some way, I don't know, somehow everything fell apart. And next week, Fiziev found himself in the title shot. I would probably take whichever fighter he's fighting, but I wouldn't be like being like, oh my god, what a terrible matchup. This like, why is this guy in this situation? Like, no, I wouldn't be thinking that.
No, it'd be an interesting challenge for whoever that champ was.
So, what are we doing next with him?
I like him to get the winner of Diego Ferreira and Mateus Gamrot.
Wow, okay. I love that matchup. That's a great matchup already between those two guys. But, guys, throw in the chat who you guys think. Tell me I'm going crazy because I'm living in the moment and I'm already talking him against a title challenger. I was looking through the rankings. And I didn't know how high I wanted to go, and I just thought, this is basically what I did. I took him and I put everyone I had ranked higher than him, and I slowly like matched him. Like, do I want to put him against Dan Hooker? Hooker's coming off a loss. I don't want to, he's kind of has no stock. Then I move up a little higher, and all right, Rafael Dos Anjos. That doesn't really do anything for C. And I know Hooker's going to 145 too, but I just thought moving him up. And finally I get him against a guy, and I'm like, I love this fight. This fight is way too early. But if I'm running the UFC, this is the fight I'm doing. I'm living in the moment, but I want to see how good this guy is. I match him against Michael Chandler next. Am I crazy?
I love the fight, but if Chandler's smart, I think he gets that one.
Yeah, he turns into a wrestling match.
Yeah.
And he has done that before.
Oh, man. So, Fiziev versus Guida, like, we can't do that to Guida on his 40th birthday. Let the man enjoy life for a minute.
So obviously me and Kyle Lahi are doing two different extremes. I'm calling for a top 5 opponent. He's going Clay Guida, 40-year-old Clay Guida. So Alan McDonald's going another wrestler. He's going Greg Gillespie. That was one of the guys. So I'm glad Alan mentioned Greg Gillespie. When I was going up my rankings, I had Greg Gillespie. And that was my first choice. I was going to go with that, and then I did. So I did cheat a little bit. Then I started going a little bit higher and higher and higher. And then I saw the Michael Chandler matchup, and I'm like, oh my god, I want that fight so much. So everyone, it's funny. So people are saying, like, Adam's saying, like, they want to give Chandler a break, so maybe Keith is right. Like, I don't know if he's saying, like, Fiziev's going to break Chandler, or like that's such an easy fight for Chandler that he's giving a break.
If they want to give Chandler a winnable fight, give him a guy with more name recognition than Fiziev that's less dangerous, and that if the Chandler beats him, he's not wiping out a future contender. Like, why have Chandler just grind out Fiziev and set him back like 2 whole years in this line of contention? I like the Gillespie one.
I gotta call out my buddy Devo, because Devo, he's in here all the time. He's great. We love him, but he said Chandler is way too big of a name. He won't take that. He's chirping with Conor. Yeah, he's chirping with Conor, and no, he's not going to take that. But you forget this. When we do our matchmaking with the Supreme Ultimate Beings, they don't have a choice. So that's why I make the match. But you're right. If you're manager of Michael Chandler and you're Michael Chandler, like, no, yeah, why would you take that? It's too high of a risk and not enough of a reward.
Yeah, like Gillespie can wrestle, obviously. Also, Gillespie got head kicked to death by Kevin Lee. If Kevin Lee can do that to him, I mean, he might find his head in like the 10th row.
Yeah. But the thing about Gillespie, though, which is why it's such an intriguing matchup, is if he did beat Gillespie and Gillespie went to his wrestling, then the questions about the ground is over. Because there's not a better wrestler in the division, on paper than Gregor Gillespie.
Sure.
Oh, I mean, maybe Islam. I don't know how the NCAA versus Sambo wrestling compares, but yeah. Guys, we got to move on. But Brad Riddell, this is just a tough stylist matchup. I still think Brad Riddell's a problem for a lot of guys.
Yes.
Speaking of a problem, Jim Crew had a problem tonight as Jamal Hill starched him in the, 1 minute. Dropped him twice. The second time he dropped him, he put him out. Hill's a badass striker. That's all I gotta say.
He is, and I was wrong about this fight. I knew he was a deadly striker. I knew he was way faster than Crute. Like, Crute's slow of hand, slow of foot. But knowing that Hill thrives when he can dictate the distance, like when he can dictate the pace and the range, like that's his comfort zone. And I thought, if Paul Craig, like the slowest man in the universe, at least in the 205-pound universe, could get into his range and make it uncomfortable for him, then I think Crute could too. But I was wrong. Like, Hill just lanced that man.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pick a fight with Devo again because Devo said Mullets went 0-2. He's still one of my number one on my Bears list, man. He beat me to the joke. I was gonna say how the Mullets had a bad night, as Brendan Allen also was sporting a mullet, and he got knocked out too. But damn, Devo, you're killing me. Anyways, back to this. Yeah, I had when this fight first announced, I said Hill's gonna starch him, and then I rethought about the fight, and I said, wait, like Paul Craig just submitted Hill. Crute's gonna take him down. Crute's gonna wrestle him, and then instead he's standing up and he's throwing a lot of leg kicks, and he started throwing leg kicks. It was instantly I had regret. I instantly had regret my pick, and I go, oh no. I'm like, unless he's throwing some kicks to kind of get him thinking he's going to strike and then he's going to shoot soon. But I didn't get how you watch Hill's past fights, see him on the feet and then see him on the ground and not instantly want to take the fight to the ground.
Seriously. Like, there's not much more to say than that.
Yeah. He had a call out. He called out Paulo Costa. He also called out Johnny Walker. I don't think he's going to get a Paulo Costa fight, but I think the Johnny Walker fight makes sense. I think that's fun, stylistically fight the UFC, and I'd go with that next.
I like that just fine. If we were talking about a main or a co-main and we were playing I'm Emperor of the Universe, I'd make the Costa fight because I think Costa needs to like prove something at 205 before he just moves right into the top 5 of his new division. But I understanding that that's not realistic, I do like the Johnny Walker fight just fine. And if Hill wins that, he's a top 15 guy. So. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, he's probably close to top 15 already. And then, yeah, if he beats Johnny Walker, he's up there. Guys, throw out there real quick who you like. Bass throws out Hill versus Volkan Oezdemir. That was a fight that I was thinking about too. That's a great one.
And that's winnable because Oezdemir is really just the deluxe version of Crute. He's a brutally strong guy who's kind of slow. If Hill can just stay on the outside, he can snipe him.
Yeah. Devo likes the Costa fight too. Kyle Lawhey throws out Du Onjung, who kind of deserves the fight. Like, I don't think of him as this elite fighter, but he just keeps winning. Yep. So he kind of deserves a fight like Jamal Hill. So I don't hate that matchup. Austin thinks Costa destroys Hill. I don't think he does. But before we move on, because I mean, there's not too much to talk about when a guy knocks someone out in under a minute. I want to say this: Hill was like, so you picked against Hill, I picked against Hill, and he was like, oh, the whole world was doubting me, and he got a little personal. Like, if I make a pick, and I know I speak for Ben too, it's not personal. We're breaking down skills of what we think of a fighter or something like that, but it's not personal. Like, I don't have anything against the guy.
No, but some people just need to motivate themselves with that whole, sure. They disrespected me, nobody believed in me. So I don't take it personally if he takes it personally. Yeah. It's like, dude, if I'm wrong, that means I learned something. Like, hey,
absolutely.
Except for picking against Jose Aldo, I'm just going to never learn that lesson and just be wrong for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I get that. And you hear about the stories of these all-time greats too. Like, I remember watching the Michael Jordan documentary, the one they did on Netflix, and he talked about him like making stuff up about people that wasn't even true. This guy's like they had some story about, I don't know, some player in late 80s when he was coming up. I don't remember what they said, but he said something And Michael Jordan said he said something, and then Michael Jordan, like 15 years later, after he like just destroyed this guy's entire career in one basketball game, admitted that like, oh, he might not have said something. I might just put that in my head. That's why he's the man. I don't know if you caught this, but there was a woman who was screaming like she was getting murdered. Could you hear that?
Okay, no, but I might have had the sound off. She was just screaming.
Yeah, I might start doing that if Hill fights in Vegas and there's small crowds like that. I'm gonna have to turn it back because it's like Eddie Alvarez's wife bad.
Oof.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, she's not screaming Eddie, but she was just screaming.
That's terrible.
And I was actually at a couple fights where Eddie Alvarez fought live, and you can hear his wife no matter where you're sitting. You could be in the triple deck and you're still hearing her screaming. But yeah, we might have a new one. Before that, I know we said this, and guys, if you're listening, I'm assuming nobody has their kid next to them as it's 2:02 a.m. But if you are listening to this next day, you are riding in your car, whatever, you have a young child next to you, you might want to pause or mute this, I should say. We used to say Darren fucking Elkins. I think we're going to throw Clay Guida into that. It's gotta be Clay
fucking Guida.
Incredible.
This man.
So first of all, yeah. Ben, you take it away.
I'll take it away. I picked this one right. I picked the outcome right. I thought Guida would win.
You picked him to win by submission. That's incredible, man.
Here's the thing. Back in his heyday, when he was kind of the UFC's one of the original reliable action fighters of the post-Tough era, the guy that, you knew that even if he lost 3 straight, his job was probably safe because they knew they could always just stick him on the card somewhere and he'd provide an entertaining fight. I always thought he was kind of overrated in terms of how good he was and how entertaining he was. I was just like, well, he just bounces in and out a lot. His hair flips all over the place. I thought he was good, but overrated. In the last couple of years, I think he's been underrated and we've dismissed him too easily because, dude, he's still capable of taking out a decent fighter. And the things that have always made his game go, they're still there. He doesn't have quite the same cardio he used to. Like, he used to have maybe the best cardio in the sport, as Lev said on the preview. He still has above average cardio for one of the hardcore cardio divisions. And he's still tough. He's still a good wrestler. I mean, for a guy that preaches the gospel of wrestling harder than anybody else in the entire sport, he better deliver, and he still does. But here, he just took a world of damage, and like 90 seconds into the round, I was just mumbling, Santos is punching himself out. This thing isn't going to get stopped. Santos is punching himself out. Keith Peterson don't listen to Cruz. Keith Peterson is a really good ref. He's not going to stop this just because there's a flurry and a man covering up. He's going to stop it if he thinks the guy is hurt too badly to defend himself. That's not happening to Guida. Santos is going to punch himself out, and after what could have been a 10-8 round, Santos looked worse at the end of the first round than Guida did.
I know.
Like, going back to their stools, Santos looked worse than Guida did, and I was like, yep, Guida's winning this thing. I would have said decision at that point. I would have changed, but nope. Guida becomes the first man to tap out the 7-time Mundials winner in MMA competition.
Incredible.
Like 4 days before his own birthday. What a man. What a mensch.
Absolutely incredible. Darren Elkins level. Bass said something I was saying. Bass said that, he thought that Peterson should have stopped it. I was watching the TV, and I had a different reaction than you. I was saying, like, dude, stop this fight. He got dropped with a knee to the face. He got dropped again with a knee to the face. He ate about 15, hammer fists in a row. And credit to Santos. Santos was trying to get it stopped. He kept looking up at the ref. Probably the wrong times when he was looking up, and he was just kind of like hammer fisting his face a little bit. He was trying to get that cheap stoppage, talking the ref into it a little bit. But when he had Guida on the feet and he was landing those knees, I was screaming for him to stop it. But obviously Peterson was right. Like, if he jumped in at that point, I'm okay with stoppage. But obviously he was right, because Guida did survive, and then it came back and won. I remember at one point he was landing shots and he probably dropped Guida 2 or 3 times, and Guida was trying to catch his leg, and his corner was screaming to grab the leg, and he kept getting out. And I turned to myself, I go, if Guida survives this round, like, this might be a 10-7 round. Yeah, I didn't expect Guida to take him down and, start grappling him the last minute of the first round. But, but yeah, Santos completely gassed out, and then Guida took him down. Yeah, this fight is exactly why I love this sport.
I completely agree.
Because no other sport do you have a comeback like this that can happen in other than boxing, like other than combat sports. Like you can't be down a hockey game 10-0. You don't get like 11-point shot in hockey. Like you get this goal in, you get 11 goals. I mean, same thing happened the night before in Bellator with Anthony Pettis. He was losing the entire fight. That's just why I love this sport. You never know, and then it's just incredible.
Yeah, it's never like a football game, and I love football, but you never see like the home crowd like start to shuffle out of the arena in the middle of the third quarter because the home team's down by 30 points. No matter how far down the fighter is.
Yeah, I'm glad that Devo pointed out the Clay Guida ring thing. To me, that was embarrassing. Like the UFC should have cut the mic at that point, because not that that he got a ring, the ring looked nice and everything, but the fact that he had to like talk about his friends and his family all chipping together. Like, come on, UFC, the guy's turning 40, get him a damn ring. Like, don't have to like go fund me for Clay Guida's ring.
And I'm pretty sure it's just a ring that's like available like to buy online. So maybe they were like, okay, like hit Clay's wife was like, shh, nobody tell him.
Oh no. They can get at the like UFC.com store.
Yeah. They probably got him a hot dog brander for Christmas. He's gonna get ready to crack that thing open in a couple weeks.
Yeah, you find out like his wife helped him get in it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the UFC chipped in for it." And you find out like it was a UFC store, and they gave her like a $25 off or 5% up his Clay Guida.
I'm dying over here.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, look at the guy. I don't think he's like the most fashionable person in the world. You know what? It's a nice ring.
He'll wear it.
He's had the greatest gift he ever got.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey.
Thanks for your service. It's the kind of thing they give you when you work at the same office for 20 years. They give you like a watch or a clock or something. Bonuses. I've got them.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, let's do this. You want to finish the main card, and then we'll do it between the main and the prelims?
Perfect. Yeah, let's finish the main card.
So let's do that. Well, hold it off. If you want to look, go ahead and look. If you don't want to look, we usually like to play a little fun guessing game. So Chris Curtis was a guy I was talking about regional fight. I'm not gonna throw people on, but like there's always these guys they're like, in Major League Baseball, the guy who's like a really good minor league player, but like a terrible Major League Baseball player. They call him like the 4A player. They get better than AAA, but you're probably not a Major League Baseball player.
Sure.
Chris Curtis had that kind of feel to him. And I always feel like, oh, maybe he's one of these guys who's going to get called up, get one fight, get 2 fights, and for the rest of his life, he's got to be called, UFC veteran. You're just kind of hoping for a guy like Chris Curtis, fighting all over the world, has every little regional belt. That is not the case. He might be right after this week, as Chris Curtis has pulled off another upset win, knocking out Brandon Allen. That was at a month ago. He knocked out Phil Hawes. So in 1 month, or less than a month, he's got 2 knockouts versus one guy that was close to being ranked, and I think the other guy was ranked. Chris Curtis, Devo puts it right there, the most inspirational story, man. He's absolutely inspirational what he's doing.
It's incredible. And there's not even any of that, Houston Alexander is for real type thing. That, like, nobody's saying that. Like, everybody is just already like, wow, it's a great story that this guy made it here, period. And how much better is this story that he's actually beaten some good guys? Like, I fully expect that the dream is going to end at some point here. But it's going to end with him taking on probably a top 10 fighter. I mean, like, what else can they do with him? They can't give him a step back from Brendan Allen.
No, there's two options. It's either like you said, a top 10 opponent, or he goes full Donald Cerrone type thing where he just he's the guy who's gonna fight everybody. It doesn't matter what their rank. He's gonna fight on a week's notice, fight on 3 days' notice if he wants to be that guy. Like that's his two options. And honestly, I love both options. Like he deserves a ranked opponent, or he could just be that guy. 2-0 in the UFC, 2 knockouts. His boxing is tight.
Yeah.
He's small for the weight. Oh, that's the other thing. He moved up a weight class. He's not only a welterweight. Like most of his success in the regional scene has been welterweight. So he's not only is he winning in the UFC, he's doing it at middleweight.
Yeah, he was obviously much shorter than Brendan Allen, and then against Phil Hawes, Phil Hawes looked like a mechanical suit of armor that should go over top of Chris Curtis. Like it was ridiculous. Yeah. Maybe he will go back to welterweight. Maybe they'll be like, okay, cool your jets. You have some extra money coming. Just, let's take 6 months or take 4 months at least, get you a suitable fight booked at welterweight, and see what you can actually do in your element. Because he can't just count on himself to come from behind knockouts over decent middleweights forever. Let's see what he can do at his real weight class.
Yeah, you know what? The one thing about middleweight, he does have a little bit more speed of it because he's not a great athlete. And welterweight, it's a much tougher division than middleweight. So, or he might be one of these guys who just bounces back and forth between if he's gonna be take a fight on short notice guy, he might be just that guy who's just gonna, I'll fight a welterweight. All right, I'll fight a middleweight. Kind of back and forth.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who it was. Oh, yeah. Somebody pointed out that Allen and Hawes are from the same camp.
Okay.
So, I mean, Curtis just starching them both is a little bit like Chaos Williams coming in and just destroying Alex Morono and Abdul Razak Al Hassan, in a row, just a short time apart, just kind of depopulating Fortis. Curtis is doing the same here. Yeah,
so Daniel is saying the same to you. He should go down to welterweight. Yeah, but he's also using Israel Adesanya, saying he has an 81-inch reach. We're not matching against the champion next. So yeah, I'm not gonna Rafael Fiziev where I'm living in the moment too much. I'll tell you a story about why I like Chris Curtis. He's a guy that I've seen him fight so many times in the regional scene. I mean, even though he's from California, we really embraced him here in New England because he's, he was a former CS champ. He fought right here in Rhode Island so many times. I remember one time he fought a guy named Jason Norwood. He defended his belt. It was not the greatest fight. He was a guy that was, people were pushing for him to be in the UFC. He won the fight, but it wasn't, a spectacular performance. I remember him talking to me, just me and him in a hallway, just the two of us. And he was like, "Dude, off the record, did I blow it?" And they're just gonna, you can see that he was just where he was just holding this weight. They're never to call me up. I had this performance, and he was really down on himself. And he asked me because he's I know you tell the truth, and I'm like, no, you still gotta win. You defend your title. It wasn't the best performance, but it wasn't terrible. It's just nice for a guy that was held in that much weight 3 years ago to not only be in the UFC, but starching dudes. It's just I'm really I forgot who said it in the chat. I'm inspired by this guy.
Yeah, it's inspiring. It's great. And I don't even know him personally. I haven't met him, but just having followed him, and he was, like you said, he's one of those 4A guys where I'm he's never gonna make it, is he? And that's a shame because there's dudes in the UFC he could beat, and hey, we got to find out.
Yeah, I think it's just I thought he'd go down to a guy like Greg Rebello, who's was right on the brink of the UFC so many times, just never got that call up. And I had a feeling we would have that situation for Chris Curtis, and it's just so nice to see a guy coming through. Brendan Allen, they talked about him looking past Chris Curtis. There might have been a little bit of that in that. I get it. He's young. He's fresh. He's having these great performances. He was they were saying right before the fight happens, him and Sean Strickland were trash talking each other, as the referee was saying, are you ready? Are you ready? So yeah, he might actually been looking past him a little bit.
Yeah, that's and he'd had to prepare for several different people. Going from Roman Dolidze to Chris Curtis it's about as opposite a game plan as you could possibly come up with. So
yeah. Bassad did Greg Rebello officially. He did officially retire, but he's also like retired like 6 times. So I think he might be done for good, but I wouldn't count out the Rhode Island's own Greg Rebello to get another fight. So let's matchmake Chris Curtis. We're talking about like what's next for him, and we're saying what to do with him. Daniel Alves is still going on about how he should. I mean, I'm okay if he moves down to welterweight. Like, that's fine. I'm going the ranked opponent way, and I was looking at who's booked, and Andre Munoz versus Eric Anders is fighting soon. I'd match against the winner of that.
Okay, I had a high and low. My high was the Andre Munoz Anders winner. My low was the Meerschaert and Stoltzfus winner.
Okay, that works for me too.
Yeah.
If Anders wins, now you're talking about a big size difference.
Yeah, Anders is a giant dude.
But if you got to fight at middleweight, then you got to get that. So I guess that kind of goes with what Daniel Alves was pointing out. Like he's going to be much smaller than a lot of guys. And kicking off the main card, Mickey Gall took on Alex Morono in a fight that I just thought was a horrendous stylistic matchup for Mickey Gall, and I think that was pretty apparent. You're obviously a bias. That's your boy, Alex Morono. Just to talk to me about his performance tonight.
Well, this is one where obviously, Lev stepped in on the preview, and Lev is much like you. Lev is generally a sharper analyst than I am. He's been an amateur boxer.
Yeah,
he's followed the sport for even longer than we have. But this is one where we disagreed, and I thought he was wrong because he thought it was a bad matchup for Morono. I thought it was a bad matchup for Gall, and it turned out to be that because the fight ended up going to the floor, which is pretty impressive because Morono is a guy who, I mean, he is the floor is lava fighter, considering that he literally owns a Gracie Barra school and operates a team out of it. But he definitely thinks the floor is lava. But even in the first round when this fight went to the ground, Morono was more than held his own against Gall. And that is Gall's. Gall is Morono is a schooled grappler. Gall is a submission specialist. That's his best route to victory in most of his fights. And I was like, dude, you're not going to knee bar Alex Morono. That's not in the cards. You might club and sub him, just jump on a guillotine or something, but you're not just going to hit him with a knee bar in the middle of a 50-50 position. That's not happening. And then on the feet, Gall's gotten better as a striker. He's definitely a better striker than he was 5 years ago, but
it's still bad.
Morono, Morono is he's the biggest overachiever in the division. In relation to his physical gifts, he's just not much of an athlete. He's not very big.
No, but he probably could drop weight.
Yeah, he's a smart fighter, and he just makes the best use of the tools he has. I just outstruck Gall. I think you could argue for giving one round to Gall, but the judges gave all 3 rounds to Morono, and I thought that was fine.
Yeah, I had all 3 rounds from Morono too. He's a guy on the feet. To me, he looks like a guy who's trying to chase a walk-off knockout with every punch, because when he throws he whips his right hand. He Joe Rogan would describe it he'd say, "Oh, it's like he's throwing a baseball pitch." I think it's more looks like someone trying to serve a volleyball. It has kind of this weird, but if he connects, he has a lot of power. I think he would get even more knockouts if he listened to his coach, because Saif Sayoud was trying to get him to throw straight punches, and when he was throwing the jab, which was not enough, he was landing it.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm with you. I thought it was a terrible stylistic matchup from Mickey Gall, because Mickey Gall, he's a submission artist, but he's more of a top side grappler, so he needs to get on top, and he's a weak wrestler.
Yep.
I mean, not that Morono's this rock solid defensive wrestler. We've seen him. There's one fight I can't think of the guy's name. Jordan Meehan. That's the fight. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first time I ever talked to him professionally, I asked him of all of his career losses, which is the one he liked back the most, and it's the Jordan Meehan fight. He's really
that's
mad
when
at
he just got he got out wrestled.
Yeah.
But Mickey Gall's not good anywhere. Even though he's a grappler, it's not David Meyer out there.
No, I mean, that's the one thing he does at even a UFC level, but it's not like an elite UFC level. He's a good topside grappler. He's pretty good positionally. He's strong from top position, and he gets submissions. But even that is not like elite.
Moreno's now on a 3-fight winning streak. He beat a name in Mickey Gall. Obviously, he beat a huge name in Donald Cerrone. Is there anything like? What are we thinking? Could he crack the top 15 one day, or is that too much to ask?
Given the right string of opponents in a row, suppose they have him fight Brian Barberena next. If he beats that guy, is he kind of sneaking into the bottom of the top 15?
That's actually a great matchup. That's actually a great matchup.
Well, I'm surprised they haven't fought each other yet, because they're kind of in that same pool of action fighter guys that are out, in that 20 to 25 range. I'm surprised they haven't met each other yet.
You know what? Let's do this. Let's have our assignment. All the listeners keep tagging the UFC, and let's get Brian Barberino and Alex Morono to fight. Not that I'm dying to get that fight. I just think it'd be funny if our listeners can get that fight to happen.
I forgot what I was going to say next.
Oh, so there you guys have it. There's the main card. Let's do the awards. So Ben, tell us, do we have a fight of the night?
We have a fight of the night and 4 performances, so 6 checks going out.
I'm okay with that because there was a lot of good performances. Let's see. So this is how we do it, guys. We do it on the honor system. If you haven't already looked at what the awards are, we just have you post it. We're kind of guessing who the UFC would give the awards to. I like to just say who I would give the awards to, not necessarily what the UFC would do. So I'm going to throw my guesses out there. If you guys throw your guesses in there, I'll read them. I'll read them on the show, and let's see who gets them right. Fight of the night. It's a tough one because Brian Barberino versus Dorian Weeks was a really good, fun fight. But I'm going to have to go with the main event. Jose Aldo versus Rob Font for fight of the night. My performances, this is tough. There was a lot of good ones. Fiziev with the spinning wheel kick knockout, that's going to get something. Hill starching a guy in a minute, that's going to get something. I'm going to throw one to Manal Kopp. I mean, his performance was tremendous. That leaves one more. For me, I mean, it's got to be the action man, right? I'm going to say Chris Curtis. So those are my picks. I'm going to go Fiziev, Hill, Kopp, and Curtis with my fight of the night, Aldo versus Font. I'll start reading out what people are saying. Austin Genola goes Aldo Font for fight of the night. Daniel Alves goes with Fiziev and Riddell. Bass goes Riddell and Fiziev. Bonuses. Oh, Guida. I wasn't thinking about Guida. Oh, yeah. Guida, Curtis, Morales, and Kopp. So he's not. Oh, he gave Fiziev the fight of the night. So I can see them doing something like that. Al's going Kopp. Austin's going with Curtis, Morales, Rafael, Fiziev, and Hill. Oh yeah, JJG. He's making a JJG is making a very, very good point. I'll give him that. And I might have effed up, guys, by not giving Guida one. Guida did sub Santos. Yeah, you're right. Listen, when I'm wrong, I'll mention when I'm wrong. So I'm gonna agree with the listeners. Guida probably is gonna. I don't know though, because I'm torn because you almost got knocked out. Do I really get a performance when you almost got knocked out? But he did sub Santos. So yeah, Guida probably gets something. So I'll say, yeah, I'll take a bonus away from Curtis. So I'll go Guida, Fiziev, Hill, and Kopp. JJG, you made a good point. You talked me into it. So anyways, I think everyone's got their picks in. Ben,
here we go.
Let us know.
All right. There are no real wrong answers on the performance of the night, so you're not going to groan at that. Your performances of the night are Clay Guida, Chris Curtis, Jamal Hill, and Rafael Fiziev. Your fight of the night is Cheyenne Blismus versus Mallory Martin.
Really?
Really.
Wait a minute. So Curtis got a bonus. Guida got a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Hill got a bonus.
Yep. Fiziev got a bonus.
Faceva got it. So okay, I got no issues with the 4 guys who got bonus. Cop might have got hosed a little bit. Aldo Font doesn't win fight of the night, which is really surprising because when you have a good fight in the main event, usually gets it. My backup pick would have been Weeks versus Barberina. Riddell and Faceva I thought was better.
Guida versus Santos was better.
Guida versus Santos was probably better. Hell, Allen versus all right, that went into decision. But like, wow, that's really surprising to me.
I'm surprised as well. That's all I can say.
Yeah, you know what though? Didn't okay? I'm not gonna say this, but didn't Cheyenne? Her last fight was like crying, showing her bank account that her bank account she had like $4 in her bank account.
Yeah.
I think this might have been a we owe you one kind of thing.
Yeah, Kyle Lawheat says $50K to settle that divorce. That might be what it is.
Yeah, I was ignoring that. I saw how many people were pointing out that she's back to her maiden name. Like, guys, slow your roll first of all. Like, some fat guy who lives in like New Jersey is not going to get Cheyenne base in Las Vegas. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, this was just the only way she could really get rid of her wrestling coach. She had to actually fully divorce him.
Oh, there you go.
17 headlock throws later, she's like, something's got to change.
but just for her kids, she's around like jack dudes who fight all the time or ultimate alpha males. Like, you're probably not going to get her. So give up hope.
He got the gym in the divorce because she moved over to Extreme Couture.
No, I think they both moved to Extreme Couture at the last fight.
Oh, had he moved as well? Then
I think they both did.
Oh, well.
All right, we should have. Either way,
let's not go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. Who gets what in the divorce? What happened to the kid? Whatever. So let's go back to the fights, guys. Coconut Bombs lost to Thunder as Dusko Todorovic won by first round TKO. I'll say this about Dusko. He was a guy that came off. They both came off the Contender Series, but Dusko was a guy that I actually really liked on film. I don't think he's gotten better, and even though he won, he got a stoppage, a first round stoppage. His ground game looked really good. I'm still not. I jumped off the bandwagon, and I'm not getting back on yet. Where do you stand?
I feel the same about Todorovic as I did before and on the preview, Lev said 2 things, and I agreed with both. One, Patolo, well, he said 3 things. One, Patolo is a super underachiever compared to the skills he has. Like, the individual skills he has do not add up to as good a fighter as they should. Because for a guy he's Hawaiian and he's nicknamed Coconut Bombs, you're picturing this 2005 style just brawler. And he's not. Like, he's one of the better guys in the UFC at varying the speed of his punches. Like, he has some nice subtlety to that. But it doesn't make a difference, because the third thing Lev said that was absolutely right is, as soon as this thing hits the ground, this fight is over.
Yeah, but the problem is, you said he's good at varying the speeds of his punches. The problem is his speed is varying it from mediocre to slow. I'm just a joke. To be honest, I didn't really pay attention to that, but
he's like a 1968 Bronco. He's got 3 gears, but they're all really slow.
There you go. Okay. No, my issue with him is, well, one is Dusko keeps his chin really high in the air, so he had his chance to knock out Dusko, and that's Michael Bisping pointed that out like 8 times. Like, every single exchange, his chin was really high. He pulls his head straight back. He's already been paid the price for it twice. He's going to get knocked out again for it. But my biggest issue is, if you jump on a guillotine when you're defending a takedown, you better get that takedown. You better get that guillotine. Like, you better finish it.
Yeah. And you knew he wasn't going to get the guillotine, and you knew that Todorovic was probably going to end up in mount. And, yeah, it was just all she wrote from there. Patolo's bad on the ground, especially on his back.
Yeah, JJG points out, he says, the nickname makes me think of a cabbage-style brawler, talking about cabbage career. Yeah, actually, I agree with you. He was from Hawaii, too.
Yep.
That's what or even a Hawaiian Chris Lieben, like, that's what I think of, like, Coconut Bombs, and that's not him.
No.
back to Tavares. Yeah, it's nice to see him go to win. I think he's 2-2 in the UFC right now. But this is the guy that I thought had like top 15 potential, and I just don't see it. I saw it one time, and he actually looks like he's taking steps back.
He's young, and he hasn't moved his camp to the U.S. yet. There's hope.
Yeah, that's true. Both good points. But now Cap, he's a guy that had a lot of hype coming in. Hardcore's loved him, obviously, a former Rising champion. He took on Zhalgas Zhumagulov. I believe I said that name correctly. If I said it wrong, forgive me. But Gabe, this is what we expected from him. He was ranked in the Sherdog rankings as a top 15 guy, both I think a bantamweight at the time, down to flyweight. This is the guy we thought we'd see. A guy that has unmatched speed, unmatched power, finishing ability. This was what we want to see moving forward.
I agree. And the thing about Kopp is that this is what we're going to get from him. He will always be a fun guy to root for. He will never be a fun guy to bet money on because you're going to be on the edge of your seat because he's one of the guys that he is so explosive but throws such low volume and has such lapses that he's going to be losing a lot of fights until he wins them. And that's fine. Yeah. You can get into contention that way. Brian Ortega won his first 7 fights in the UFC without winning a single round. He lost the fights until he found the finish. Right. So Kopp can do that, but if he doesn't do it, you're going to be wondering, like, why is everybody high on this guy? This guy sucks, you know. But he looked fantastic. I wish he had been on the preview for, make no mistake, I love having Lev on. It's a fun change of pace. But for this fight in particular, because I just wanted so badly to say, I don't think Manel Kopp should be a 3-1 favorite over anybody in the UFC right now, given his track record so far. You know, but I couldn't spring that one on Lev because he would probably start talking, like, legitimately about odds, and I'd be way out of my depth. So...
Yeah. I know, Lev is good. And the people, I mean, I read the YouTube comments, and I'm like, man, every time he fills in for me, I feel like I'm getting fired. The people love, they can't get enough of Lev and his monotone speaking sultry sounds of Lev. So I think Zhumagulov had the right strategy. I think the right strategy is to press the pace, try to just out volume, and kind of very similar to what Rob Font was trying to do to Aldo, like force him on your back foot, kind of get him guessing. That's what he was trying to do. But Kopp was moving around, he was trying to land his shots, but when he finally found his range, it took him no time. I actually remember, I don't remember if it was DC or Bismuth, they finally Kopp's finding his range now. He's finding his spot. And then 10 seconds later, the fight was over.
And
opening up now. That's what they say.
And opened up starting with a hard body shot. Always love the body shot that kind of sets up the finishing sequence. Because it ruins everything. It stops whatever the opponent was about to do. Mm-hmm. Usually makes them drop their hands. And if you can swarm from there, yeah, that's exactly what Kopp did. It was beautiful stuff.
Let me ask you this question before we move on, and because Kopp, he's right there in the division. The division's wide open with the new champion. It's wide open. I posted something on Twitter, and you tell me, am I being crazy, or do you agree with me? I think Kopp is the most marketable guy in the division right now.
Outside of Moreno himself, maybe.
And what I'm saying about this is he's a guy that has speed and power for a division that has really lacked speed and power. Hold on, let me rephrase that. Lacks knockout power. Obviously, he doesn't lack speed, but he's got unmatched speed. He's a flyweight who's still even fast for the division, and he's got one punch knockout. Davison Figueiredo. Who else has one punch knockout in that division?
Really, that's about it.
So that he has a brash personality. Who else in the division has a personality? Brash one, sells themselves.
Nobody who's at a high level. I mean, I have to look down at some of the lower level out of the top 10 type guys.
And sure. Brandon Moreno was very likable, but I'm saying that they have much different personalities.
Oh,
He's a lovable like nerd.
He's lovable and he's Mexican. Like that's why like the UFC likes both of those things right now. But
I'm glad that you brought up the Mexican part because I understand that's a huge market for combat sports and particularly boxing. So that's clearly a market. But what I like about Cop is he has two countries that really aren't represented. So he kind of almost represents two countries with Angola, where he was born, and Portugal, where he lives and trains out of. So he has that going for him too. Like, yeah, sure, it might not be the Mexican market that you've been trying to get into for so long, and it seems like they're finally now having success. But he might be opening up two smaller markets that combined could be something special.
Yep.
I think it's great that you got a win in the UFC, and that somebody from the UFC. If I'm in those board meetings, he's a guy that I'm feeling really good at. Kyle, he's saying future champ. I don't know if I'm ready to throw that out there, but it's a little bit where I was going with. Like, he has that ability. That's what I'm saying. He's so marketable.
Yeah, Cody Garbrandt, if he ever makes 125, if his power carries over, then he's another guy with one-shot power.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sorry, good.
Well, just to the people kind of talking about Cop, this is what I figured we would get out of Cop as soon as he showed up in the UFC. A guy that was extremely dangerous, extremely exciting, would become a star right off the bat, and could certainly threaten to be a title contender in the near future. So this is him arriving there. I'd be all over these comments if this were his first fight in the UFC, but it's his fourth. He lost the first two, and he blew weight badly for the third. So I want to see him make weight and look good at least one more time before I'm really ready to, put the stamp of approval back on him.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same sense when I'm saying the stamp of approval and where Kyle's going. Like, does he have the potential to be a champion? Is he one of these guys yeah, Chris Curtis is a nice story, and it's really fun, and I'm really enjoying it's good. I'm enjoying it while it lasts, but it's not going to last. He's not going to win the title. Like, Cobb, if he's a champion one day, like, it wouldn't shock me. But I'm more the same sense, but if I'm a UFC matchmaker, I'm a UFC promotion king, this is the guy I'm rooting for to continue to have success.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the UFC is probably feeling a lot better about its investment right now.
Let's do one more thing, because we're saying that, because people are saying this guy could be the next champion. At the end of the day, he'd be Zumagulov, who's not a bad talent by any means. He's actually a pretty good talent himself. He's better than his UFC record suggests. What would you do with Cobb?
I think I gave myself... Oh, well, yeah, there are a couple of good fights coming up. Cody Garbrandt versus Kai Kara France, or Alex Perez versus Matt Schnell. The winner of either of those would be a good next step.
Yeah, I'm going a little bit lower than you are in far as the rankings, but I'm going with somebody that has a name. Is Jussi Formiga, is he still in the UFC?
He was let go.
He was let go. All right, so I'm bringing him back. Okay, so I'm still Supreme Being. So I'm bringing Jussi. I had a feeling that he got let go. I'm bringing Jussi Formiga back, just get knocked out by Cobb.
Hey, that works for me. Because if Cobb doesn't knock him out, he's going to end up wearing a Brazilian backpack for 15 minutes and losing 30-27.
Yeah. All right, so because he's out, I'll go a different route. Like, someone like Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott has a name, fought for the title once. I do something like that.
Sounds good to me.
Dio's going high. He's going Cody Garbrandt, Kai Kara France winner. Yeah. I mean, him and Cody probably does sell himself because a little bit of trash talk, their style, especially if Cody has a good showing against Kai Kara France. Obviously, Cody Garbrandt is the biggest name, probably still over Brandon Moreno if he wins. But
Francisco Figueiredo, I like that one. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun division now. Before that, Brian Barberino versus Darren Weeks I thought at the time was going to be the fight of the night. I must have forgotten about the absolute war between Mallory Martin and Cheyenne Vlismas right before that. But a really great fight.
Really good fight. I felt terrible about Barberino at the end of the first round. He simply had not gotten things into gear. It just hadn't turned into a Brian Barberino fight yet.
Yeah.
He's always been pretty good at turning fights into Brian Barberena fights, where he gets more technically advanced strikers to just kind of get sloppy with him. He can make his wrestling work, just kind of underrated wrestling game. I don't know if it's underrated, but like I always sleep on it until I watch tape on him. I'm like, oh, you know what? You don't just have like tricky reactive takedowns. You actually have good fundamental wrestling. Yeah. And just none of that was on display for the first about half of the fight, but Weeks got tired, as you would expect of a guy that came up on days' notice, and Barberena just turned it around. It was a real good fight.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Weeks' short notice, because one thing that really stood out to me about his short notice is his ability to, like, Barberena had insane output and everything, but for the most part, Weeks matched it for a big portion of the fight. And he's a guy that a loss against a veteran like Barberena in UFC, that's a tough task, especially taking on like 4 or 5 days notice or whatever it was, very short notice. In a loss, I actually think his stock rose. I'm going to say something before we move on from this fight. I agree with a lot that Lev said, even though I picked Barberena on this fight. Lev said that he thought Barberena was a completely shot fighter. I agree with a lot of that. I agree in the sense that his hand speed has slowed down. I agree that he's never been a big like power puncher to begin with. You mentioned the wrestling not being. Lev said the wrestling's completely shot. I feel the same way. It seems like you were kind of leaning the same way. Like the wrestling game is kind of gone. The one reason why I don't believe he's a completely shot fighter though is he still has this unbelievable tool of output and cardio. That's still such a problem no matter what you do. Like a Clay Guida, like a Darren Elkins, like these guys, even when all the skill sets are gone, there's still that ability of forcing a fighter to fight on their back foot, and you being so used to being in that style of fight that they win.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be kind of the last thing to go for him. He's certainly not on the same level of overall accomplishment, but it's kind of the same thing that I might say about Clay Guida. That's one of the last tools he has left in the box.
Before that, we had the fight of the year, what would we say, with Mallory Martin and Cheyenne Vlismas?
Short list for it, for sure.
It was entertaining. Like I wasn't bored watching the fight, but it's also like a fight a year from now. You ask me, I'm gonna forget unless I did tape study on one of the fighters. But yeah, your fight of the night.
It has nothing to recommend it as fight of the night. It was not the most action-packed fight. There was no drama to it. There was no question who was going to win, like at any point during the fight.
No, I thought Mallory Martin. I was pretty confident in Cheyenne Vlismas heading into this fight. I thought she's a fighter that I liked, pre Dana White Contender Series. She's a fighter I liked coming onto the Contender Series. She just had a big speed advantage. She's a much better striker. She had a speed advantage. And I also thought Mallory Martin gave her a fight by being a stationary target in her range. When Mallory Martin tried to close the distance, she didn't do enough. Like I think the whole first round she didn't try wrestling at all. Mallory Martin's only chance in this fight was to get Vlismas down, hold her down, and ground upon her. Like that's how she kind of has, her route to victory in every fight. That wasn't the case.
Her corner told her that. Like she needed Jim West in her corner to say, "I want you to explain to me what you're doing right now." That's apparently what she needed.
I like Jim West as the cornerman.
That worked fine with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually think some of her credit, I want to give Vlismas some credit because she was cutting angles, she was using good footwork, she wasn't a stationary target, so she was doing a lot of things that made it tough to wrestle. But other people with other styles would have found a way to cut off the cage, especially when you're fighting in the smaller cage, to get to her opponent, and she just really struggled. And Mallory Martin simply, she isn't good.
No, that's about all you need to say.
Before that, if Rob Font won tonight, I was going to do a big #1 bull, Southern New England MMA, stand up. William Knight won an absolute terrible fight against Alonzo Menafield. First of all, so this was the most controversial fight as far as who won,
Mm-hmm.
I saw some people who thought it was absolutely crazy that William Knight won. I saw people that was extremely. They actually thought the judges did a fantastic job. So, which camp are you in?
I picked Knight to win this fight, but I thought he lost
Okay.
it. I thought
Okay.
Menifield won the second and third rounds.
Yeah. So this is how I feel. I'm not strong in either camp. I feel this way. You can't win a fight by just leaning on your opponent. But to me, with William Knight, you can't win a fight by having a 10-second flurry where you maybe land one punch. Like, Paul, it looked really good for William Knight to be throwing big shots, but they weren't landing.
Nope.
The problem is, and I understand this, when you watch a fight and you judge, one, you get one angle. Two, we get a much better angle with besides getting one angle, we get much better with the camera being closer than you do when you're outside the cage. Unless it's directly in front of you, if you're right in front of you, then they could be on the other side of the cage. So I can understand how judges would think Knight was landing shots. Plus, he has these big clubbing style that even when you block it, it just looks like he lands because it still moves you back and stuff. I just didn't have – neither fighter really went to secure the fight. I had it 1-1 going into the third round. Neither fighter, to me, did much to win it. That's why I had no beef with William Knight getting the decision.
Yeah, the second round, this was not a good fight. The main thing I got wrong about this is I figured that Knight would be the guy pulling ahead in the later rounds, just because Knight actually his cardio has been decent for a guy that's built like him, whereas Menifield has hit a hard wall that's cost him fights multiple times in the past. So I figured if Knight can survive the first 4 minutes of death against Menifield, I think he's probably got this. And I was hoping that Menifield would come out and just swing wildly instead of doing the thing he did against Fabio Serrant, which just scoop him up, slam him to the ground, and basically just crush his windpipe with your shoulder. Because I was like, I don't think Knight can stand that, but I bet Knight could survive the slugfest. None of that really happened. They were both pretty measured, and Knight, if anything, got tired faster. So,
yeah, I'm going to pause that for a second. I just want to read some of the comments because I agree. There's some really good points. Bass pointed out, he said, body language won the fight for Knight. I actually agree with that. The way it looked at the end looked better for Devo. Not that this matters, but it's still a good point. He says, pride rules, it was Knight all day, meaning pride rules or one championship does the same thing where you judge the entirety of the fight, saying Knight did enough in the first round, like almost knock out Menifield, that would have carried throughout the whole fight. I understand the argument for that, where we do it in other sports. If in football, if a team scores 28 points in the first quarter, but the next 3 quarters the opponent wins the quarter 7-0, 7-0, 7-0. At the end of the game, it's 28-7, 28-21 for the team because they scored all the points in the first. Like, I get that argument, I really do. There's fights where we'll call it pride rules work really well. There's fights that it's not.
Real pride rules, Menifield would have gotten a yellow card for that clenching against the fence.
Which I'm glad you said that because I think it was Herb Dean in this fight. Like, he gave the reason why this even became a close, controversial fight, because Menifield looked like he was gassed. Somebody in the chat, I apologize, said he was stalling. Yeah, I agree. That's what happened. You have William Knight throwing big bombs in your face and hurting him multiple times. Herb Dean gave Menifield every chance to win this fight. Giving him about 4 minutes of clinch time is the reason why this went to the decision.
And he didn't throw strikes or try to jockey for the takedown. It was literally a smoke break.
At least give me some of those cheap little short knees to the legs. Do something to make it look like you're active. A couple shoulder strikes. He does that at all. A couple shoulder strikes in the clinch. A couple short knees, like Charlie Horse. I call them the Charlie Horse knees. and he's going to win.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, Kyle points out. Kyle says, "I imagine the 30 pounds of neck muscles help with no selling punches."
Seriously, he is ridiculous.
Yeah, Yeah, he's so the funny thing before we move on is we talked about like how terrible the third round was. The first round, I was so intrigued. Like I was at the end of my seat, both guys hammering. I was even like the wrestling exchanges. It was really really interesting, but it started off great and then it kind of really faded that fight. It looked like Claudio Puelles started off great and then a changing of the tides looked like Chris Goossmacher was taking over and was going to the fight until suddenly he wasn't, and Claudio Puelles pulls off a really slick knee bar submission win in the third round, which is now his third knee bar win of his career, if you want to count the Ultimate Fighter show. Claudio Puelles is he's got 4 wins in a row in the UFC. He's 25. I mean, what do you think about this guy?
I think he is going to come up against a ceiling here, but he's much better than I thought he was going to be. He's physically stronger than he was coming out of Tough Latin America, I think, too. Like, I didn't care about him at all coming out of Tough. I was like, this is just another, like, overseas edition tough guy. He's not going to be that good. But he was like 21 or 22 at the time. He's gotten physically stronger. He's moved to the U.S. for his training, which has definitely helped him. I think he has top 10 ceiling. That's as much as I'm willing to say right now. And by top 10 ceiling, I mean he might win 3 of his next 4 and get into the top 10. Like, I'm not saying top 10 in his next fight.
I'm okay with that. What I liked about his performance is I liked in the first round he was using a lot of takedowns early, and then he switched it up in the second round. He turned into a big striking battle. Like, I like that going. I also like that when Goossmacher, who's known for his cardio, known for his output, known for just kind of stealing victories, I like that why it seemed like Puelles was starting to slow down, that he still found a way while Goossmacher was taking over with takedowns and cardio to get a submission. Like, I like the mental fortitude he had in that moment. So, moving forward, I don't think that's like a strategy to always look for a knee bar. Like that's that's going to run out. But still, 25, he's at that age where he's going to see continued improvement fight to fight for at least 2 or 3 more years. And starting the card, I should say, Vince Morales knocked out Luis Smolka in the very first round knockout. Not much to say. Morales just caught a perfect shot. Perfect example to when you are exiting exchanges, you got to have your hand up. Reminded me a lot of Daniel Cormier's Stipe Miocic, the first fight where Cormier caught him with a little shot when Stipe was, in the clinch and about to exchange, exit the exchange. Really good for Vince Morales. I got nothing else to say about this fight.
That's only that. With as many guys as Luis Smolka has fought, as long as he's been around, I was surprised that this was his first knockout loss. So that is a nice feather in Morales' cap because Smolka's
absolutely.
He's a sneaky good fighter.
Yeah, and this was a knockout too.
Knockout. Yeah.
Yeah, and from a short shot. So there you guys have it. We covered all the fights. Let's do the fun stuff. The Bulls and the Bears. The cut list. You want to do the cut list first?
Let's do the cut list.
I have 2.
I think I only have 1.
Okay. So let's see so the way we do the cut list, guys, we just say who should no longer be in the UFC. If both me and Ben have the same name on the cut list, then we give the UFC permission as the supreme beings. We give the UFC permission to cut this person and make room for other fighters. Who is the one person?
I am sorry to say that it is time for Maki Pitolo to go. He is 1-5 in the UFC. His only win is over Charles Byrd, who I think retired immediately afterwards. Like he was checked out, and some of these have been bad losses. He's a fun guy to have around, but they can't justify this anymore.
Absolutely. So Maki Pitolo is officially on the Shillan and Duffy cut list, as I have also had him on my list. But getting saved by the mercy of Ben Duffy, Mallory Martin makes it another show. As I was cutting her, she's now 1-3 in the UFC, but Ben is she did just get fight of the night, so I guess that's why you wouldn't be cutting.
Maybe that's her severance check. They're letting her go. It's like, and I briefly considered Jalgas as well, but I still think he has upside. I think he's better than the 1-3 he is in the UFC. So yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking him too, but when I looked at his his fight record and the guys he's fought really good guys in the division. That's the only reason why I kept around too. Like even like Cobb, it's not a bad loss. So he doesn't have a bad loss in his UFC career.
Yep, that's it.
All right, so let's go to the Bulls and the Bears. Guys, if you've never heard the show, the Bulls and the Bears, it's a stock market reference. Bulls is, things are going good. Things are going on the way up. You want to be on that. If it's Bears, it's going down. The people in the chat, throw out, if you have any suggestions for the Bulls and Bears, throw out your picks. We do it hockey style, so 3, 2, 1. I apologize. I didn't read people's picks for being cut. Cutlass, Alan McDonald throws out Mallory Martin and Maki Patolo. He had the same two as me. Kyle Law, he also agrees with Mallory Martin. Luke Wilson says get rid of Patolo.
Austin Gritzmacher's another one that
yeah, he just won a fight right before this one, though, didn't he?
He beat Rafa Garcia, which I think Rafa Garcia should be cut at this point. So I don't know. He's probably going to stay.
Yeah. So Daniel Alves goes Gritzmacher and Patolo. Austin goes Martin and Maki. So I think that's it. So let's go to the Bears. You mind if I go first?
Oh, please go right ahead.
All right. So these people had a bad night. My number 3, Mickey Gall. And the reason why Mickey Gall has made my list is he was starting to get some buzz after he beat Jordan Williams, which I thought was a good win. I actually like Jordan Williams. Is not a high talent, but is a decent UFC talent. And then he just got absolutely smoked by Moreno, and any excitement you got about him, you realize now he's still not that good. He's not talented. He really is just a regional fighter. So Mickey Gall is my number 3. My number 2 went from going to be on the Bulls list to on the Bears list, and that's Leonardo Santos. This guy was undefeated for almost 12 years, and now he's lost 2 fights in a row. He was on the brink of the biggest win of his career. Oh, no, he beat Kevin Lee, but would have been one of the biggest wins of his career, to getting submitted by a guy who's not really known for being a submission threat. So not good times for Leonardo Santos. And my number 1, Brendan Allen, simply because of the fact that he was the ranked fighter. He was the guy that, he's the bigger guy. 2, he has a full camp with his opponent is getting a, short shot at him, and then he got knocked out. Not a good night for Brendan Allen. So who are your Bears, man?
I agree with all of yours. So rather than come up with 3 more of my own, I'll just add to the pile Jimmy Crute. He walked into this fight he was a substantial favorite, and while there was danger from both sides, Crute had a direct path to victory if he fought a particular way. He fought the opposite of that way. He got lanced in seconds. That's a bad look. I mean, he's young.
Yeah.
He'll have more chances, but he goes back to the back of the line for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. He should have been on my list. I overlooked him. Good point.
Yeah. Want to move? Yeah, that's the only other one I'm going to add to the pile.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Luke Wilson threw out mullet fighters. Yeah, unfortunately, Devo goes fishing. Already beat you to that one. I had him on my list too, but Devo ruined the night for the rest of us.
Tanner Bozer actually tweeted about that. Like maybe he felt a disturbance in the force.
Oh, really? Is Tanner Bozer like the Yoda of mullets? Is he like he's like the Jedi that knows most overall?
That must be it.
Let's go to the Bulls. There's a lot of people who had great nights, so I'm gonna let Ben kick it off. So same thing, we do it 3, 2, 1 style.
Okay. Number 3, Clay Guida. I mean, plenty of people thought he might win. The odds were close, but nobody thought he was going to win the way he won. So he gets a good moment right ahead of his, birthday. Gets honestly one of the better wins of this phase of his career. And for a guy that's been in the UFC, I think this was his 33rd fight in the UFC, and we have so many memories of him in the cage. We don't have many memories of him on the mic because he's been on a lot of undercards. So he got his moment where they just stuck a mic in his face and let him show why they don't stick a mic in his face very often. I'm so happy for the guy. So that's number 3. Number 2, Dusko Todorovic. I agree with you that I don't know if he has the potential I thought he did coming off the Contender Series, but for a guy that's been as inconsistent as him, just to win a fight. Well, doing the opposite of the Jimmy Crute thing. He did the one thing that he absolutely had to do to win this fight, and to do it and beat the guy you're supposed to beat. I liked that. Number one, and you'll probably talk about it as well, but it can't be anybody but Jose Aldo. I mean, again, the underdog. Again, I picked against him. And this was a good fight. This was not a close fight. He just put it on Rob Font. And of the two of them, he was the one that made the between round adjustments to take it from a close fight to a not close fight. The only real suspense by the 5th round was whether he was going to get a last-second finish. Just another fantastic performance from, well, one of the 3 greatest fighters ever to do it.
Yeah. Before I give mine, I'll read some of the comments. Daniel Alves threw Crew in as one of his bears. Austin Janela, he gave his 3-2-1. He went Gall 3, Santos number 2. And the down under fighters, that's a good point, as both Crew and Riddell, both fighters from down under that took an L, and back-to-back fights too for that one. So those are some good picks by Austin. Daniel Alves also throws out Riddell. He puts unfortunately for a bear. As far as bulls, Kyle Lawhey throws out Jose Aldo, Rafael Fiziev, Clay Guida. Alan McDonald goes Chris Curtis, Rafael Fiziev, and Jose Aldo. Daniel Alves says Cheyenne is a bull, feels like the UFC wants to push her. I actually definitely agree with that.
In the literal sense of your stock being up, I completely agree with him.
Yep. Bass, obviously, he's going with Jose Aldo. He says it 3 times. Austin goes Cop, Aldo, and Curtis as number 1. Good.
I wasn't going to say anything, but like Austin's letting me have it in the chat for not mentioning Curtis. I was leaving it for Keith. You know, we share the labor here.
Yeah. So my number 3 is, and like I said, there's a lot of people you could pick from. Like Clay Guida did not make my list. Sometimes I feel like some guys lose a fight more than someone wins. So maybe I might be not giving Guida enough credit, but I'm going to go with Manal Cap just because it's 2 wins in a row. I know he missed weight for his last one, but I'm saying he's the most marketable guy in the division at this time. So, it seems like, some people in the chat were talking about him winning the titles one day. So his stock is on the rise. So he's my number 3. My number 2 is Chris Curtis. 2 wins in a row, 2 wins in under a month. 2-0 in the UFC, 2 big underdog. He was, I think he was like a plus 285 in one of them, and plus 2. So he was plus 280 underdog against Allen, plus 250 underdog against Hawes. So he was almost a 3-1 underdog against Allen. So Chris Curtis is my number 2. And number 1, I mean, how could it? You know what? Let me give Fiziev. I'm going to give Fiziev some credit. Fiziev should be on the list too. I just want to point that out. I mean, 5 wins in a row, spinning wheel kick knockout. That's a highlight reel. But number 1, same as everybody, Jose Aldo. He's got 3 wins in a row. Performance. He was the underdog. He was supposed to lose. Instead, he gets a beautiful knockout. So Jose Aldo. Ben, what was your grade for this card?
I'm going to give this one an A. I mean, we joked about Vlismas and Martin winning fight of the night, but it wasn't that bad a fight, and there were no terrible fights. Well, there was one kind of lousy fight with Knight and Menefield, but that's about it. And the main card sizzled, and we learned some things, and the main event had immediate direct title implications. It mattered. So yeah, give me an A for this one.
Yeah, I agree with you that William Knight Menefield was the worst fight, but I feel like William Knight and Menefield would be like 2 rhinos smashing into each other. Like, it gets boring after a while, but it was still fun for a little while. Like, I'd watch 2 rhinos smashing.
As long as one isn't just pushing the other into the fence for 4 minutes, then I'd break those rhinos up. But yeah.
Yeah. So if there's ever a fight at the zoo, Ben will jump in the cage and break up the rhinos. I'm gonna go A2. I'm gonna go A minus. Not enough ranked fighters on this card, so that's why I'm not giving it. There's also like a ceiling to this, so that's why I'm not going to go like an A or an A plus. But overall, really, really good night for the UFC. Hardest question we have every single week: who is your listener of the week?
Whew. I mean, we got a lot of the regulars in here.
We got the All Stars in here today.
The All Stars among the All Stars. I thought Dev Goes Fishing was kind of doing a real good job, just kind of poking at us, like letting us know when we forgot stuff. I mean, nobody in the chat is is shy about correcting us about things, but I'm going to say he edges out the field.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, one thing I always want to say about our listeners, especially the people during the live chat, the thing that I think we like most about them is that everyone's extremely respectful. If everyone has differing opinions, no one like talks shit or anything. Everyone's really fun. Nice to see the same people, and I think people are starting to get to know each other. They're just really great. Even though I kept calling him Devo Goes Fishing, I don't know why. Guys, just give me a break. It's 3 a.m. But it's Dev Goes Fishing. JJP was in the chat. He had some really good points. He pointed out that I didn't give Clay Guida credit. I'm not sure if JJP is one that jumps in there often. I don't recognize the name. I apologize if he has been. But I'm going to go with Kyle Lahi. He's here all the time. He has some really good points. I thought he had a lot of volume, but also a lot of funny points. So Kyle had me cracking a little bit. So I'm going to give Kyle Lahi my listener. But, I mean, really, guys, everyone in the chat could have been our listener. So there you guys have it. First of all, before we close up, I want to apologize for not doing the preview this week. I was planning on doing the preview. I even did some tape study and everything, but unfortunately, sometimes things, you guys know my job. Sometimes things go crazy. It was a really crazy week, and it just would have happened would have been I would have done the preview show with no quality, and you're better off having someone as great as Lev who can just jump in there and probably be even better than I do it. So sorry about that, guys, but we are coming back. We have UFC. We have a pay-per-view. We have the title fight. Charles Oliveira going against Dustin Poirier. Poirier trying to me. All right. Can I do it? Can I say this in preview? Can I tell you a debate that we're having in the Sherdog Slack? Is this okay to do this?
Pull back the curtain. I can't wait.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to say something very controversial. And of course, this could all be ruined. Come Saturday, Charles Oliveira could ruin this. But if Dustin Poirier wins the UFC title on Saturday, every website, I'm not going to say it, but all the websites, he should be unanimous fighter of the year. How could it be anybody else? He beat Conor McGregor twice in the same year, which makes him a household name, and then he ends the year. He takes the gamble of fighting Conor twice, doing the money fight, instead of fighting for the title. And then he wins the title at the end of the year, right before the holidays. How is he not fighter of the year? Don't give me this Kamaru Usman and all this stuff. It's Dustin Poirier.
I guess we'll have that argument when it comes.
I don't even care if it's a split decision.
I'll say one thing about the UFC 269 card. This thing is loaded. The undercard: Josh Emmett versus Dan Ige, Pedro Munoz versus Dominic Cruz, and Alex Perez versus Matt Schnell could all be a fight night main event.
Hold on. You just said Dominic Cruz, like one of the greatest fighters of all time, is on the prelims.
He's not even the top prelim. Emmett versus Ige is.
I know.
Yeah.
And think about how much of a banger that fight is. I'm sorry. What other fight did you say?
Alex Perez versus Matt Schnell. It's like number four versus number 7, and that's another fight. You were asking before about personalities, marketability. They both have kind of low key, sizzling personalities for the flyweight division. Like either of those guys with enough mic time could kind of stand out as well. But those
give me the main card real quick, because I'm trying to. And guys, we're going to talk all about this.
Oliveira versus Poirier, Nunes versus Pena, Jeff Neal.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah, Jeff Neal if they let him out of the pokey against Santiago Ponzinibbio, Kai Kara France.
Hey guys, I got some pull. Maybe I can work on that.
I hope he's okay. Kai Kara France versus Cody Garbrandt, Howley and Paiva versus Sean O'Malley.
It's funny because the order, it's absolutely loaded. I mean, but there's actually some prelims that like Dominic Cruz should not be on a prelim. But anyways, just from like respect.
Respect.
Yeah. Anyways, it's absolutely loaded. Me and Ben are going to come back this week. We're going to talk all about it. I'm really excited. It's insane. So there you guys have it. Thank you guys for everyone in the chat going. If you listen on replay, we apologize for the beginning, the technical issues. We're going to continue to try to make this the best live recap show as possible. He's been